Good morning. It is 8 o'clock on March 14th, and welcome back to another Bible reading video. Please excuse me. I'm having some sort of, I don't know, sore throat or something, but we're going to go ahead and get through this. We are reading in chapter 7, starting in chapter 7 today of First Kings. And I'm reading out of the scriptures, the TS 2009. And I'm not sure why I had this live stream scheduled on YouTube, and for some reason I cannot find it. And so that's probably why nobody's getting a notification, because I had to create a new stream this morning. But yeah, here we are. Welcome. If you have a Bible handy, if you're not working, not doing nothing, follow along. Shalom and good morning, Glenna. Good to see you here. So yeah. Chapter 7, First Kings. Oops, that's not what we want to see. Here we go. And Solomon built his house for the and Solomon built his own house for 13 years. Okay, so we were just talking about this. He just finished building a temple for Yah, and it took him 6 years, I believe. Oh no, thus he built it for 7 years. And then Solomon built his own house for 13 years, and he completed his entire house. We won't speculate on why it took twice as long to build his own house, but we did that in the last video. Verse 2. And he built the house of the forest of Lebanon. It was 100 cubits long and 50 cubits wide and 30 cubits high, and with 4 rows of cedar columns and cedar beams on the columns. And it was paneled with cedar above the beams that were on 45 columns, 15 to a row. And there were windows with narrowed frames in the 3 rows, and and window was opposite window 3 times. And all the doorways and doorposts had square frames. And window was opposite window 3 times. And he made a porch of the columns 50 cubits long and 30 cubits wide. And the porch was in front of them, and the columns and the roof was in front of them. And he made a hall for the throne, a hall of right ruling, where he ruled. And it was paneled with cedar from floor to floor. And the house where it was to dwell in the other courtyard within the wall was of like workmanship. And Solomon made a house like this hall for Pharaoh's daughter, whom he had taken. All these were of precious stone, hewn to size, sawn with a saw inside and out, from the foundation to the coping, and also on the outside to the great courtyard. And the foundation was of precious stone, large stones of 10 cubits, and stones of 8 cubits. And above were precious stones, hewn to size, and cedar wood. So the great courtyard all around had 3 rows of hewn stone and a row of cedar beams, as was the inner courtyard of the house of Yahuah, and the porch of the house. And King Solomon sent and brought Hiram from Sor. He was the son of a widow from the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Sor, a bronze worker, and he was filled with wisdom and understanding, and skill in working with all kinds of bronze work. So he came to King Solomon and did all his work. And he cast 2 columns of bronze, each one 18 cubits high, and a line of 12 cubits measured the circumference of each. And he made 2 capitals of cast bronze, to put on the tops of the columns. The height of one capital was 5 cubits, and the height of the other capital was 5 cubits. A lattice network with wreaths of chain work for the capitals which were on top of the columns, 7 chains for one capital and 7 for the other capital. And he made the columns and 2 rows of pomegranates above the network all around to cover the capitals that were on top. And so he did for the other capital. And the capitals that were on top of the columns in the hall were in the shape of lilies, 4 cubits. And all the capitals above also on the 2 columns by the bulge which is next to the network. And the pomegranates were 200 in rows on each of the capitals all around. And he set up the columns by the porch of the Hekal. And he set up the column on the right and called its name Yakin. And he set up the column on the left and called its name Boaz. And on the top of the column was lily work. Thus the work of the columns was completed. And he made the sea of cast metal 10 cubits from one rim to the other, round all about, and 5 cubits high, and a line of 30 cubits measured around it. And below its rim were ornaments all around, 10 to a cubit, all the way around the sea. The ornaments were cast in 2 rows when it was cast. It stood on 12 oxen, 3 facing north and 3 facing west, 3 facing south and 3 facing east. And the sea was set upon them, and all their back parts were inward. And it was a hard breadth, excuse me, and it was a handbreadth thick, and its rim was shaped like a rim of a cup, like a lily blossom. It held 2,000 baths. And he made 10 stands of bronze. Each stand was 4 cubits long, and 4 cubits wide, and 3 cubits high. And it was how the stands were made. And this is how the stands were made. They had side panels, and the side panels were between frames. And on the side panels that were between the frames were lions, oxen, and cherubim, and a pedestal above on the frame. Below the lion and oxen were wreaths of beaten work. And each stand had 4 bronze wheels and axles of bronze, and its 4 feet had supports. Under the basin were cast supports beside each wreath. And its opening inside the crown at the top was 1 cubit, and the opening was round like the work of a pedestal, and 1.5 cubits. A little cold. And also on the opening were engravings, but the side panels were square, not round. And the 4 wheels were under the side panels, and the axles of the wheels were joined to the stand, and the height of the wheel was 1.5 cubits. And the wheels were made like chariot wheels, their axle pins, and their rims, and their spokes and their hubs were all cast. And there were 4 supports at the 4 corners of each stand. Its supports were of the stand itself. And on the top of the stand, half a cubit in height, round all around. And on the top of the stand, its flanges and its side panels were of the same. And on the plates of its flanges and on its side panels, he engraved cherubim, lions, and palm trees according to the according to the clear space on each, with wreaths all around. He made the 10 stands like this. All of them were of one mold, one measure, and one shape. And he made 10 basins of bronze, each basin containing 40 baths, and each basin was 4 cubits, 1 basin on each of the 10 stands. And he put 5 stands on the right side of the house, and 5 on the left side of the house. And he put the sea on the right side of the house to the east, facing the south. And Hiram made the pots and the shovels and the bowls, and Hiram completed doing all the work that he was to do for King Solomon on the house of Yahuah. The 2 columns and the bowl-shaped capitals that were on top of the columns, and the two networks covering the two bowl-shaped capitals which were on top of the columns, and the 400 pomegranates for the two networks, 2 rows of pomegranates for each network to cover the two bowl-shaped capitals that were on top of the columns, and the 10 stands and the 10 basins on the stands, and the 1 sea and 12 oxen under the sea, and the pots and the shovels and the bowls. And all these utensils which here are made for King Solomon for the house of Yahuah were of polished bronze. The king had them cast in clay in the district of Jordan between Succoth and Sarathan. And Solomon left all the utensils unweighed because they were many, nor was the weight of the bronze searched out. So Solomon made all the utensils for the house of Yahuah, the slaughter place of gold, and the table of gold on which was the showbread, and the lampstand of refined gold, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left side, on the left in front of the speaking place, with the flowers and the lamps and the snuffers of gold, and the basins and the snuffers and the bowls and the ladles and the fire holders of refined gold, and the hinges of gold, both for the doors of the inner house, the most set apart place, and for the doors of the house of the Hakal. Thus all the work which King Solomon had done for the house of Yahuah was completed, and Solomon brought in the set apart items for his father David, the silver and the gold and the utensils, and he put them in the treasuries of the house of Yahuah. So it makes sense if he was to he had all these skilled laborers, right? These people who were good with bronze and gold and woodworking. So he had sourced this team of the best skilled laborers he could find to build the temple. Took 7 years. And I just imagine like a job site, right? Where you got all these guys working and they got a job that keeps them busy doing doing work for 7 years. And then when that job was completed, they moved right into building Solomon's house, and they got what was it, 13 years of work out of that. 20 years. It's a career for many people. I thought Shlomo was short for Solomon. Um, isn't it? I don't know. Is that where Shlomo came from? That's funny. Yeah, the best of the best craftsmen, exactly. And I mean, if you had the best of the best craftsmen and you happen to be the most well decorated, wisest man in the world, um, well decorated, meaning clothed, uh, compares the lilies of the field are not, Solomon's not clothed as well as the lilies of the field. But yeah, he took advantage of that situation, not in a negative way, but like, so yeah, these guys are going to be the ones that build my house. There's a story. Let me go back here. I see we got some comments. Shalom, shalom. Um, third cup, man. I got up. I only had time to make 1 cup. Yeah, there's a story. Miracle MRI is cardiac. They can't figure out why I left in a chopper with a widowmaker and arrived 20 minutes later and no sign of nothing wrong. What? Did something happen that I don't know about? Probably lots happened I don't know about. Anyways, we'll continue on. To everybody who's joined since I started reading, shalom, good morning, welcome. Thanks for hanging out, following along. Chapter 8, 1 Kings. Here we go. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the chief fathers of the children of Israel, to King Solomon in Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah from the city of David, which is in Sion. And all the men of Israel assembled to King Solomon at the festival of the month of Ethanim, which is the 7th new moon. Quick pause. Did you guys catch there was a lunar eclipse last night? Kind of wild. I was just laying in bed and I looked up. I was like, what's going on? It was like a full moon earlier. And sure enough, the moon was being eclipsed. Random side. Let's go back to reading. Verse 3, and all the elders of Israel came, and the priests took up the ark, and brought up the ark of Yahuwah, and the tent of appointment, and all the set-apart utensils that were in the tent. And the priests and the Levites brought them up. And King Solomon and all the congregation of Israel who had assembled with him were with him before the ark, slaughtering so many sheep and cattle that they could not be counted or numbered. And the priests brought in the ark of the covenant to Yahuwah to its place, into the speaking place of the house of the most set apart place, under the wings of the cherubim. The speaking place. This is the holy of holies, which was all lined with wood. I think it was olive wood, and then that was lined with gold. So the Ark of the Covenant of Yahuwah is in its place, in the speaking place of the house, the most set apart place, under the wings of the cherubim. For the cherubim spread 2 wings over the place of the ark, and the cherubim covered over the ark and its poles. And the poles extended so that the ends of the poles were seen from the set apart place in front of the speaking place, but they were not seen from outside, and they are there to this day. There was nothing in the ark, only the 2 tablets of stone which Moshe put there at Horeb, where Yahuwah made a covenant with the children of Israel when they came out of the land of Mitzrayim. And it came to be, when the priests came out of the set-apart place, that the cloud filled the house of Yahuwah, so that the priests were unable to stand and perform the service because of the cloud, for the esteem of Yahuwah filled the house of Yahuwah. And Solomon said, Yahuwah has said he would dwell in the dark cloud. I have indeed built you an exalted house, an established place for you to dwell in forever. And the king turned around and blessed all the assembly of Israel, while all the assembly of Israel was standing. And he said, Blessed be Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, who spoke with his mouth to my father David, and with his hand has filled it, saying, Since the day I brought my people Israel out of Mitzrayim, I have chosen no city from any tribe of Israel in which to build a house for my name to be there, but I chose David to be over my people Israel. And it was in the heart of my father David to build a house for the name of Yahuwah Elohim of Israel. But Yahuwah said to my father David, Because it has been in your heart to build a house for my name, you did well that it was in your heart. Only you do not build the house, but your son, who is coming from your loins, he does build the house for my name. Now Yahuwah has established his word, which he spoke, and I have raised up instead of my father David, and sit on the throne of Israel as Yahuwah promised, and built a house for the name of Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, and have appointed, there a place for the ark, wherein is the covenant of Yahuwah, which he made with our fathers, when he brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim. And Solomon stood before the slaughter place of Yahuwah in front of all the assembly of Israel, and spread out his hands toward the heavens, and said, Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, there is no Elohim in the heavens above or in the earth below like you, guarding your covenant and loving commitment with your servants who walk before you with all their heart. Guarding your covenant and loving commitment with your servants who walk before you with all their heart, who has guarded that which you did promise your servant David my father. Indeed, you have both spoken with your mouth and have filled it with your hand, as it is this day. And now, Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, guard what you promised your servant David my father, saying, there is not to cease a man of yours before me, sitting on the throne of Israel, only if your sons guard their way to walk before me as you have walked before me. And now, O Elohim of Israel, please let your word come true, which you have spoken to your servant David my father. For it is true, Elohim dwell for is it true Elohim dwells on the earth? See the heavens and see the heavens and the heavens of the heavens are unable to contain you. How much less this house which I have built? Yet shall you turn to the prayer of your servant shall you turn yet shall you turn to the prayer of your servant and his supplication, O Yahuwah my Elohim, and listen to the cry and the prayer which your servant is praying before you today. For your eyes to be open toward this house night and day, toward the place of which you said my name is there, to listen to the prayer which your servant makes toward this place. Then shall you hear the supplication of your servant and of your people Israel when they pray toward this place, when you hear in your dwelling place in the heavens, and shall you hear and forgive? If anyone sins against his neighbor, and he has lifted up an oath on him to cause him to swear, and comes and swears before your slaughter place in this house, then hear in the heavens and act and rightly rule your servants, declaring the wrongdoers wrong, bringing his way on his head, and declaring the righteous right by giving him according to his righteousness. When your people Israel are smitten before an enemy, because they have sinned against you, and they shall turn back to you and confess your name and pray and make supplication to you in this house, then hear in the heavens and forgive their sins for your people Israel, and bring them back to the land which you gave to their fathers. When the heavens are shut up and there is no rain because of the sin against you, because they sin against you, when they pray toward this place and confess your name and turn from their sin because you afflicted them, then hear in the heavens and forgive the sin of your servants, your people Israel, for you teach them the good way in which they should walk, and shall give rain on your land which you have given to your people as an inheritance. When there is scarcity of food in the land, when there is pestilence, blight, mildew, locusts, grasshoppers, and their enemy distresses them in the land of their cities, any plague, any sickness, whatever prayer, whatever supplication made by any one of all your people Israel, each knowing the plague of his own heart, and shall spread out his hands toward this house, then hear in the heavens your dwelling place, and forgive and act, and render unto everyone according to his ways, whose heart you know. Because you alone, know the hearts of all the sons of men, so that they fear you all the days that they live in the land which you gave to our fathers. Also concerning a foreigner who is not of your people Israel, but has come from a far land for your name's sake, since they hear of your great name and your strong hand and your outstretched arm, and he shall come and pray toward this house, hear in the heavens your dwelling place, and do according to all for which the foreigner calls to you, so that the peoples of the earth know your name and fear you, as do your people Israel, and know that this house which I have built is called by your name. When your people go out to battle against their enemy in the way that you send them, and they shall pray to Yahuwah toward the city which you have chosen, and toward the house which I have built for your name, Then shall you hear in the heavens their prayer and their supplication, and maintain their cause when they sin against you, for there is no one who does not sin, and you become enraged with them and give them to the enemy, and they take them captive to the land of the enemy, far or near, and they shall turn back unto the heart of the land where they have been taken captive, and shall turn and make supplication to you in the land of those who took them captive, saying, We have sinned and acted crookedly, we have committed wrong. And they shall turn back to you with all their heart and with all their being, and in the land of their enemies who led them away captive, and shall pray to you toward their land which you gave to their fathers, the city which you have chosen, and the house which I have built for your name. Then shall you hear in the heavens, your dwelling place, their prayer and their supplication, and maintain their cause, and forgive your people who have sinned against you. It's a whole lot of grace going on here in the Old Testament, right? And forgive your people who have sinned against you, and all their transgressions which they have transgressed against you. And give them compassion before those who took them captive, and they shall have compassion, on them. For they are your people and your inheritance, whom you brought out of Mitzrayim, out of the iron furnace. Let your eyes be opened to the supplication of your servant and the supplication of your people, Israel, to listen to them whenever they call to you. For you have separated them unto yourself for an inheritance out of all the peoples of the earth, as you spoke by the hand of your servant Moshe, when you brought our fathers out of Egypt, O Master Yahuwah. And it came to be, when Solomon had ended praying all this prayer and supplication to Yahuwah, that he rose up from before the slaughter place of Yahuwah, from kneeling on his knees, with his hands spread up to the heavens. And he stood and blessed all the assembly of Israel with a loud voice, saying, Blessed be Yahuwah, who has given rest to his people Israel, according to all that he promised. There has not failed one word of all his good word, which he promised through his servant Moshe. Yahuwah our Elohim is with us, as he was with our fathers. He does not leave us nor forsake us, to incline our hearts to himself, to walk in all his ways, and to guard his commandments and his laws and his right rulings, which he commanded our fathers. And let these words of mine, with which I have made supplication before Yahuwah, be near Yahuwah our Elohim day and night, to maintain the cause of his servant and the cause of his people Israel, the matter of each day in its day, so that all the peoples of the earth might know that Yahuwah is Elohim, there is no one else. Let your heart therefore be perfect to Yahuwah our Elohim, to walk in his ways and guard his commands as at this day. And the king and all Israel with him slaughtered slaughterings before Yahuwah. And Solomon slaughtered slaughterings of peace offerings, which he slaughtered to Yahuwah, 22,000 bulls, 120,000 sheep. Thus the king and all the children of Israel dedicated the house of Yahuwah. On that day, the king set apart the middle of the courtyard that was in front of the house of Yahuwah, for there he made ascending offerings, and the grain offerings, and the fat of the peace offerings, because the bronze slaughter place that was before Yahuwah was too small to contain the ascending offerings, and the grain offerings, and the fat of the peace offerings. And Solomon at that time performed the festival, and all Israel with him, a great assembly from the entrance of Hamath to the Wadi of Mitzrayim, before Yahuwah our Elohim, 7 days and 7 days, 7 days and 7 days, 14 days. It seems that okay, so this is a side note. We're gonna skip that. On the 8th day he sent the people away, and they blessed the king, and went to their tents rejoicing and glad of heart for all the goodness that Yahuwah had done for his servant David and for Israel, his people. Chapter 9. Chapter 9. All right. So we got a big feast, 120,000 sheep. How many bulls did he say? Good night. I mean, I know there's a lot of people eating, but I mean, good night. What we got here? How many? What we got? 20, 22, 22,000 bulls and 120,000 sheep. Remarkable. How'd you like to be at that feast? What? Are you all right, JS Genesis? Leaving for an MRI soon? How did I miss that? Is that what I read? That was like the first comment. Wow. Hey, I know you got a lot going on if you're going to get an MRI, but um, maybe we can chat a little bit today. I'd love to catch up, JS Genesis. Uh, all right. Did I have the live stream scheduled for this evening? I don't know. I may have. All right. Well, I'm just down here sniffling and snotting. Sorry about that. Um, not much I could do about it. Trying though. All right, we're gonna sign off here. These videos will probably range in the morning, each morning from 30 minutes to an hour. Um, the eclipse. Gotcha. It happened last night. That was wild. I didn't hear much about it. I saw like a little ad or whatever. It said something about an eclipsed moon, like a blood moon. And I was telling I was having my son Levi watch the eclipse with me last night. It was like 1:30 in the morning or whatever. Um, I planned on being asleep sooner than that, but then I was like, "Oh, the moon's doing something weird. I'm gonna watch this happen." And I was like, "Levi, come on." And then I was telling him, that Yahuwah gave us the sun, the moon, and the stars for to let us know times and seasons, and that those are basically like his billboard. And when he wants to give us a heads up about stuff, he'll do things in, you know, using his creation. Now there's a lot of speculation about what causes the lunar eclipse. I don't know. It's a mystery to me. I'm actually absolutely baffled by it, but it does make sense that it's like the shadow of the earth being eclipsed, especially when the sun will be coming up over here and the moon's over here. My head is this, if we're going on a ball, which it's not a ball, but the moon's here, the sun's coming up here, peeking over. Oh, there's the, anyways. But the shadow will start on the top of the moon and work its way down. That's not how light works. That's not how shadows work. So I'm confused by it. But it was cool. And Levi watched it and it turned red. And I was like, look, these things will happen more and more frequently as the day draws near. And he's like, "What day?" I'm like, "He's gonna come back and judge the world." There's a lot going on. Um, at a more rapid pace, like the birth pains of a pregnant woman, right? Like, doesn't all happen at once. You get contraction and then they start to happen rapidly until boom, it's on. Bob went out last night to track the moon, figured out it must have been e- uh, eclipsed time. The moon rose in the fifth gate and set in the third this morning. Yeah, I gotta get more savvy on what's going on in the heavenlies. It's important to be watchful. He doesn't want us to be caught off guard. And I think that people use the scripture out of context. It says that he'll come like a thief in the night. They just kind of like pull that one part out of there. But it talks about being watchful and ready so that you're not overtaken as a thief in the night, like so that you're not caught off guard. But the strong man can't break in and steal if if you're on guard. In fact, let me find that scripture so I'm not just pulling it out of context. First Thessalonians 5:2. Let's do that. Let's do that. First Thessalonians 5:2. All right, we're on chapter 8. I'm gonna write that down. Chapter 8. First Thessalonians. Where are we at? First Thessalonians 5:2. Let's just go to 5. Now, brothers, as to the times and the seasons, you do not need to be written to, for you yourselves know very well that the day of Yahuwah comes as a thief in the night. For when you say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. But you, brothers, are not in darkness, so that this day should overtake you as a thief. Right? So you are all sons of light and sons of the day. We are not of the night or of darkness. So then, we should not sleep as others do, but we should watch and be sober. For those who sleep, sleep at night, and those who get drunk are drunk at night. But we who are of the day should be sober, putting on the breastplate of belief, of love, and as a helmet the expectation of deliverance, because Elohim did not appoint us to wrath, but to obtain deliverance through our Master Yeshua Messiah, who died for us, so that we, whether awake or asleep, should live together with him. Therefore, encourage one another and build one another up, as indeed you do. But brothers, we beg you to know those who labor among you and are over you in the Master, and admonish you, and to hold them in the highest regard in love because of their work. Be at peace among yourselves. And we appeal to you, brothers, warn those who are disorderly, encourage the faint-hearted, uphold the weak, be patient with all. See that no one renders evil for evil to anyone, but always pursue what is good, both for yourself and for all. Rejoice always. Pray without ceasing. In all circumstances, give thanks, for this is the desire of Elohim in Messiah Yeshua for you. Do not quench the spirit. Do not despise prophecies. Prove them all. Hold fast what is good. Keep back from every form of wickedness, and the Elohim of peace himself set you completely apart, and your entire spirit of being and body be preserved blameless at the coming of our Master Yeshua Messiah. He who calls you is trustworthy, who also shall do it. Brothers, pray for us. Greet the brothers with a set-apart kiss. I charge you by the Master that this letter be read to all the set-apart brothers. The favor of our Master Yeshua Messiah be with you. Amen. Now we got this verse here. Oh, wait, where was it? Hold them in the highest regard and love and peace. And we appeal to you, brothers, warn those who are disorderly. Now let's move over to Ezekiel. Where are you at, Ezekiel? There. Wait, no, that's Zechariah. Ezekiel, there you are. Ezekiel chapter 3. What is it, verse 18? Let's see. Okay. When I say to the wrong, you shall certainly die, and you have not warned him, nor spoken to warn the wrong from his wrong way to save his life, that same wrong man shall die in his crookedness, and his blood I require at your hand. Okay, that 1 Thessalonians 5, he's saying, warn those who are disorderly, encourage the faint-hearted, uphold the weak, be patient with all. He didn't put that in for no reason. When you're dealing with the disorderly, when you're dealing with the faint-hearted, or when you are disorderly or faint-hearted, it's going to take somebody some patience to handle that person in that situation, especially with love. So, anyways, what is OPSEC? OPSEC is operational security. And I think many people are overly concerned with OPSEC. Like, you're going to know where I live. You're going to know where I live. Everybody wants to come to my house, get me. Maybe. Come get some. All right. I'm going to jump off here. I love you guys. I'll catch you in the morning. Wait, no, tomorrow is Shabbat. I ain't going to wake up early tomorrow. But we will probably do like a evening study tomorrow, unless we just pick up on Sunday. So I'm not promising tomorrow. I may take the day and just not be on the internet. Shalom. Love you guys.